Hey everybody, it's Ronnie, and we have another amazing interview for you right here on Daybreak Star Radio, and I'm excited because it's one of my own tribal members, so, you know, and our tribe is just like everywhere right now, and I love it. And her name is Sarah Folden, and she is an amazing artist, and we are going to talk to her about some stuff right now. So first off, thank you so much for joining me, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess first, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a Cowlitz artist. I live in Olympia. Mom to like the world's most awesome teenager, but I think we probably all think that about our own kids. I'm just a creative.
Just a creative. All right. So I want to know, first off, what made you decide one day you woke up and you're like, I am going to be an artist. This is what I'm going to pursue as a career.
It just happened. I never really decided it. I mean, I've been artistic my whole life, and like my earliest memory of creating something was in preschool. And I remember painting a picture of our house for an All About Me day. And I was excited because I could put everything I felt about it onto the paper. And so it's been a way of expressing myself my entire life. I grew up in a multi-generational household on my great-grandparents' homestead in Roy. And my grandma lived there, and she was super artistic, and my dad was very artistic. And so I was always kind of in the middle of creative stuff with them, especially with my grandma. And I was pretty involved with art in school. I got a lot of cool opportunities for fun projects. It's always been a part of my world. In high school, I had a little trouble with our mascot, and I don't want to throw my school district under the bus or anything, but I was an advanced art student, and they wanted me to paint a red feathered headdress. And back then, I didn't know words such as cultural appropriation, but I knew how I felt about it. Mm-hmm. And I was really kind of, as a kid is, forming my identity back then. And I found a strong sense of self and tribal stuff that I was involved with my family. And the school was, you know, on my ancestors' land. And so I fought back on that one, and it didn't go so well for me. I flunked the class, I was insubordinate, and I quit making art for about 20 years. It's sad that I let it bother me that bad and that I just gave up and kind of walked away from it. But life is good now. I've had a lot of really healing opportunities around that, and I'm on the right path again. That's good.
I do want to know, because knowing you, I've noticed that you work in quite a few different mediums. I was wondering, what are your preferred mediums when it comes to making your art?
I don't really have a preference. I like to experiment. I like to play around with art. I was intimidated when I first started making native artwork and following rules, keeping things traditional. And I really kind of come to a place where I'm comfortable just exploring. I really like block carving, printmaking. It's pretty labor intensive, but it's a different type of creating. Pen and ink and painting, all mediums really. Lately, I've been able to do a couple of graphic design projects. That's kind of kept me on my toes, and I've had to learn some new things. It's been challenging, and so that has made stuff really exciting. But I kind of like to dabble in it all.
Nice. It's always fun to learn new things. I always love learning new things, no matter how ridiculously hard it gets sometimes. Like, you know, I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. No, just keep doing it.
There's some satisfaction in the challenge, for sure.
It really is. Yeah, definitely. Like sooner or later, I'll get that challenge of acrylic. I like my oils. So what inspires you to create? What gets you motivated?
My connection to place, nature. And if you look at any of my artwork, it's always themed around nature and our connection to nature, the symbolism, the phases, the seasons, all of that inspires me. So whatever it is kind of going on in my life, I can metaphorically connect to something. So it's where I put my feelings.
I can definitely understand that.
Yeah.
And it's part of our native blood, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look at me. I'm looking so washed out today, though. There's too much sun. So if you can, take us through like the typical process for what it's like for you when you're, starting a project.
I don't know that there is a typical process. That's a tough question for me. Every project has been a little bit different. I'm learning how to write proposals and apply for public art projects. And I also have people just contacting me with interest to work with me. So each project's a little bit different. What I'm finding doing public artwork, though, they all really begin with a lot of conversation. And I've been able to meet some really interesting people, and it's been exciting for me and challenging to kind of fulfill a customer's needs. But that beginning introduction where we're all brainstorming and I'm trying to help convey on paper, canvas, whatever it is, what their vision is exciting for me. I like that part of it. So everything starts with conversation, and I enjoy the connection.
Nice. Do you prefer working on a project alone, or do you like working with a team?
It's tough with a team, but I love it. For me, just creating like my own piece of art that's tied to something specific going on in my life, something that's inspired me. I have a tough time doing that and calling that a job. Like, all of this is tough to define as a job. It doesn't feel that way. I wish the money didn't exist, but working on projects with people in teams, it's challenging, and I also really, really dig it. Like, I like brainstorming with a group of people, and I like coming up with something that, is inspired by everybody's like collaborative efforts.
Mm-hmm. So how much does being native influence your artistic style?
A lot. I mean, completely. Completely. This is where I'm from. This is where we've always been from. And everything right here in this place is what inspires every piece of art I make.
So do you always try to incorporate native styles in your work?
Not always. The last few years I really have. After my big break of 20 years not making art, I had a lot of stuff go on in life. I was a mother working full time, and my husband was really, really sick for a long time. And so life was overwhelming. I had a lot of loss kind of all at once. And I took a break from everything. I was working for the Northwest Indian Fisheries Commission for a long time. I was grateful for exposure to culture there. Mm. And then after life kind of crashed and burned, lost everything with everything going on, I turned to art, and that's all I could do for a while. And it's what I needed. And I ended up at school at the Northwest Indian College. And all of this was like unplanned, but I had the opportunity to take an art class there with artist Peter Boom, who does Coast Salish art. And I was able to learn from him. And then a really good friend of mine, Brian Perry, is a native artist, and we worked together at the Northwest Indian Fisheries Commission. And so as I was kind of exploring native artwork and learning from Peter Boom, I was also able to work with Brian and learn from him. And I did a lot of studying of our own Cowlitz history and visits to the Burke Museum to look at ancient carvings and learn about our art. And so it's been important for me to add that into my art style. I guess it would be a contemporary Coast Salish art style. And the culture part of it has been so healing for me in my own life, and so important that I'm really inspired to share that with others and keep that going. And so, you know, the kiddos in our tribe and just anyone that I run into, I like to share what I've been able to learn, and I want to keep learning. And it's important for me to put that out there.
I can definitely understand that. And I appreciate like the classes you've taught for us so far at our tribal cultural events and stuff. Like I have learned a lot from you myself. So, you know, I appreciate that. So just so you know. So recently you received a grant from the Potlatch Fund. And I want to know if you could tell us a little about that and what the project was and stuff.
I did receive a grant from them. It was their resiliency fund, and it's actually the first and only grant I've ever applied for. I've always been intimidated. Wow. Yeah, I know. And then I got it, so that was pretty exciting. I've always found them intimidating, actually. A lot of red tape, a lot of formalities, and here I am, just kind of, I don't want to say winging it, but really self-taught, except for a couple wonderful artists who have helped me out along the way. A lot of things require a lot of formal education and business licenses and things that I just didn't have. And when the Potlatch Fund put out their resiliency grant, it felt safe. It felt inviting. It felt like the right space that I could kind of tell my story. They were asking for us to share our dreams, and what better way to get help as, you know. And I told them at the time I was working with some local school districts in Cowlitz territory on changing their mascots, which kind of connected back to my own story back as a kid and what made me quit doing art. And so to find a place to help me get funding that was philanthropic, I can't say the word, granting, there weren't a lot of rules and a lot of stipulations. They trusted artists to use the funds in the way that suited them best. There wasn't a bunch of intimidating reporting at the end of it. It was storytelling, which for me, I really think that the impact of grants and of assistance and just of anything can be shared in a more meaningful way, telling stories rather than writing receipts on a piece of paper. And that way we all get a chance to learn from each person's experience. So I applied for the grant with them and I got it, and it helped me. I got my first printing press and was able to cover a few different expenses. And that allowed me the time and opportunity to work with these school districts creating mascots, replacing old racist mascots. And the most important part of that, like the most significant part of that, was this grant money allowed me to do work for kids that are going to be walking the hallways of these schools in the future and have something there that represents proper representation and something that they can be proud of.
Right. Definitely.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I can't tell you how amazing the entire experience has been. It's a lot of it has really come full circle, and that's why I just feel like I'm in the right place now.
So there was no particular actual project that you had to do for the grant. That
was the project that I had wrote to them about. I said, okay. I need money to get my art business going. I want to go work on these school projects. And
nice.
And it worked out that way. It worked out even more exciting, like better. Eventually, Potlatch Fund contacted me this year to help them do the outreach materials for their fundraiser or their gala that they just had at the Seattle Art Museum. So my first block carved print that was inspired by all of the Cowlitz women during the early part of the pandemic, who I was watching closely and who was really inspiring me to get through things. Inspired this block carved print, purchased with the materials from the Potlatch Fund, who ended up hiring me to use that piece of artwork as their outreach materials for this event. And anyway, I'm rambling here.
No, that's awesome.
It's all been connected, and it's all been a pretty awesome experience. I'm very thankful for them.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you went for the grant because I'm glad it helps you out. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I gotta know, what advice would you give to like an upcoming Native artist and our Native youth?
Follow your heart and do things in a good way, and just be open and honest. I've been in so many situations that were kind of frightening and intimidating, and instead of playing through it like I knew what I was doing, I've just been vulnerable and I've been honest and I've asked for help as I needed it, and I've always been there to learn, to show up and do things in a good way, to give back and to learn. And so really, that's my biggest piece of advice to any upcoming artist is just be you and have your heart in the right place. And
right.
Yeah.
It's the only way you're going to truly find the soul of what you are in your own art. If you just be you. Yeah, definitely. So what's next for you? What big projects do you have that you can tell us about? What are we going to see? Is there going to be another big mural somewhere coming that we should check out soon?
There is. I can't tell you when or where, but there's a huge one coming. It's like 3 stories tall. I'm super intimidated. I'm really hoping that this spring I will be working with youth and foster care who are aging out. I don't know for sure yet, but I'm trying hard to work with them in creating a piece of artwork that will be help give them a sense of ownership and pride into a new place in their life. And just this week, I signed a book deal. I'm illustrating a really, really, really great book on Indigenous foods, first foods, and medicines. So I've got some stuff happening. It's exciting.
Awesome. Yay, that'll be awesome. Good on Indigenous foods. We need more when it comes to Indigenous foods. Definitely. That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it. Before we go, where can people find your art so they can get a piece of it themselves?
Look me up on Instagram. Sarah's Dreaming, SARAHS.dreaming. And you can always email me at sarahfolden@gmail.com. Awesome.
Well, again, thank you so much. You know me. I wish you all the best of luck, and you know how much I love you. So,
I love you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks so much.